Bill Clinton is back in the spotlight. And it's not for a good reason. A video from his past just surfaced, and it's very bad news for Democrats. The media, world leaders, and Democrats all howled in protest when Donald Trump announced he would recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and begin the process of moving the American embassy to the Holy City. Trump made this promise on the campaign trail and was determined to keep it. The foreign policy establishment was furious and claimed Trump's move would incite Muslim violence. But all Trump did was actually keep the promise made by every American president going back to Bill Clinton. Trump even tweeted out a video of Clinton, Obama, and George W. Bush all making this pledge when they were running for office.
Jerusalem is still the capital of Israel and must remain an undivided city, accessible to all.
As soon as I take office, I will begin the process of moving the United States ambassador to the city of Israel, as chosen as its capital.
I continue to say that Jerusalem will be the capital of Israel, and I have said that before, and I will say it again.
And Jerusalem will remain the capital of Israel, and it must remain undivided.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem. Therefore, I have determined that it is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. While previous presidents have made this a major campaign promise, they failed to deliver. Today, I am delivering. I've judged this course of action to be in the best interests of the United States of America and the pursuit of peace between Israel and the Palestinians. This is a long overdue step to advance the peace process and to work towards a lasting agreement.
This video is a prime example of why Trump won the election. On the campaign trail, his refrain that career politicians were all talk and no action was sweet music to the ears of Americans who were fed up with politicians promising one thing while running for office, but governing as conventional establishmentarians after winning. Following through on his promises is why Trump's supporters are so loyal to him despite the media's best efforts to separate the president and his voters. But the move did not just thrill conservatives. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also praised the move. CNN reports, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has defended U.S. President Donald Trump's controversial plan to relocate the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, saying Monday that he believed European countries would follow suit. Speaking in Brussels, where he is meeting European Union foreign ministers, Netanyahu said Trump's announcement was based on recognizing reality. Trump's move Wednesday to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and commit to moving the U.S. Embassy to the Holy City prompted international criticism and sparked protests across the world. The announcement, which upended 7 decades of U.S. foreign policy, delighted Israeli officials but was condemned by Palestinian leaders, who see East Jerusalem as the capital of a future Palestinian state.
I have determined that it is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. This is nothing more or less than a recognition of reality. It is also the right thing to do. It's something that has to be done. That is why, consistent with the Jerusalem Embassy Act, I am also directing the State Department to begin preparation to move the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
I think tonight he is strengthening the forces of extremists in this region as no one has done before.
President Trump making a big announcement today at the White House, following through on a campaign pledge. Other presidents have campaigned on that and mentioned it, but it's never gone this far, to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem and to make Jerusalem to have the U.S. acknowledge Jerusalem as the capital of the State of Israel. As you can imagine, this is getting, in the Arab world, a lot of pushback, but not just there. You see these 18 countries warning the U.S. against moving the embassy, and they include Belgium, France, Germany, Ireland, Luxembourg, Russia, and the United Kingdom, and specific warnings against recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Egypt saying it would complicate the Middle East process, potentially dangerous repercussions from Jordan. Palestinians, dangerous was the word. Saudi Arabia, detrimental to the peace process. And Turkey says it threatens to sever ties with Israel. That said, a lot of praise for the move from evangelicals, from Jewish leaders. It's a mixed bag across the world. Let's bring in our panel. Steve Hilton is a former advisor to British Prime Minister David Cameron and host of The Next Revolution here on Fox News Channel. Rachel Bade, congressional reporter for Politico, and Byron York, chief political correspondent for The Washington Examiner. All right, Steve, your thought of how this was laid out and the reaction.
Well, Brett, when I saw the chorus of disapproval, I think it was more against than for today. When you got the Chinese against it, the French against it, the EU against it, all the foreign policy establishment, it seems, against it, my instinctive reaction was I'm for it, because at least it's a change from the status quo that has basically failed, that all the people that are against this have defended. But I've got another point I wanted to make, which is that, it's something that it just mystifies me why the hell they have waded into this at this point. When you think about why Donald Trump was elected last year, it was to get the economy moving, to bring back jobs, to raise wages, to look after those people, the forgotten men and women that we hear all about, and to get their prospects on the rise. People who supported him on that basis must be wondering, we didn't elect you to mess around in the Middle East. Once you've dealt with the problems here at home, then maybe turn to this. And I think that a lot of the populists who supported President Trump, who wanted from him, for the first time in many years, a pro-worker policy agenda, will be infuriated by yet another distraction from delivering that.
Rachel, you had some Democrats up on Capitol Hill who previously had called for this very move, putting out statements criticizing the move.
I would say from Congress, the overwhelming reaction from Republicans was very positive. Even Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader in the Senate, did praise this move. However, you talk to advocates. There's a reason people have talked about this for years and not done it, and that is because peace advocates in the region have sort of made this case that if you recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, you give Israel something they want that has brought them to the bargaining table, to the negotiating table to reach a peace accord with the Palestinians. So a lot of reaction on that. We're hearing Nancy Pelosi came out against it. I also think it's interesting from a White House standpoint. It's sort of risky for them because Jared Kushner is trying to strike an accord between Israel and Palestine. And basically, this could have a blowback. And from what we're hearing from the White House, it sounds like they think, yes, there's going to be some negative reaction to it in the Middle East right now. But apparently, Jared Kushner is convinced that that will die down and the peace process will continue.
Byron.
This is one of these things where we've been doing something one way for 25 years and it hasn't worked. And someone proposes to do something differently and the crowd goes, oh, no, you can't change the way we've been doing things. And Trump has essentially called the bluff of all those people in the government, in the U.S. government, who have said they supported this change and then not wanted to actually do it. You heard him in that soundbite refer to the Jerusalem Embassy Act passed by Congress in 1995, saying to relocate the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem, passed with 93 votes in the Senate, 374 votes in the House. This was overwhelmingly approved. It has been reaffirmed since then, and Trump is simply calling the bluff. On the other hand, kind of like what he's done with the Iran nuclear deal, the Paris Climate Accord, he's kind of doing it gradually. He's not doing it tomorrow. He actually signed another waiver to keep the embassy in Tel Aviv for another period of time, and he set us on the course of doing this without doing it in an abrupt way. So he's getting a lot of support, as you mentioned, from Republicans for doing this.
Yeah, here the leaders on the ground, Israel and the Palestinians' reaction today.
Profoundly grateful for the president for his courageous and just decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and to prepare for the opening of the U.S. Embassy here. This decision reflects the President's commitment to an ancient but enduring truth, to fulfilling his promises, and to advancing peace.
He is in total violation of international law, human rights, and he's turning the conflict between Palestinians and Israelis from a political one into a religious one.
Steve.
Well, funnily enough, it's the same as with so many of these decisions that he makes. I completely agree with Byron, where he goes against the prevailing wisdom, the kind of elite's view of how things should be done. The overreaction from the critics and from the establishment actually pushes people into the president's camp. When I see some of those responses, you know, this is a finely balanced argument. There are really good arguments on both sides. It's not an easy judgment. I happen to agree with it. I think it's the right move. My only question is, why did they have to do this now? But when you see the overreaction from the other side, I think it actually strengthens the resolve of the president to keep making decisions like this.
Well, I think this wraps it up. Longtime nemesis on the campaign trail, Jeb Bush, tweeted out, "Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, and I applaud at POTUS for seeing through America's promise to relocate its embassy there. This is an important show of solidarity with Israel, one of our nation's greatest allies." They haven't always been allies, Jeb Bush and Donald Trump.